Well, we did it 2 episodes ago. The band is back together. This is IssuesWatch Podcast. Hello, and welcome to the IssuesWatch Podcast. I'm Brad Muniz, your host for the bi-weekly accounting and auditing episodes. I'm the partner in charge of accounting and auditing at Sobelco, and back with me today is Frank Boutillette, partner emeritus at Witham, and my co-presenter for many A&A presentations in the Society's Law and Ethics webinar. Welcome, Frank.
Thanks, Brad. I'm glad to be here. I'm surprised that they let me back.
Me too. But no, last time we were together, it was at the convention. People should look at that video. There was everybody around.
No.
Now there's really nobody around except Jim Hardenberg scowling at us because we're late for our lunch. Okay. Anyway, this episode qualifies for Nano CPE credit. If you're interested in earning CPE credit for this episode, hit the pause button now and head over to njcpa.org/nano to find out how. As usual, quick disclaimer, the views and statements expressed herein are our own and not necessarily those of NJCPA, Sobelco, or Witham. So, Frank, let's get on to the big topics. The AICPA, the Center for Audit Quality. So if you're a member of that, you probably received a copy of a Audit Partner Pulse survey. And there was a lot of great content. I think it was like 61 pages long and hit a lot of different areas. And I don't have enough time here to go over all that information, but it really gave you a good insight as to what a lot of the audit partners are looking at that they surveyed. And some of the areas that they hit on were the economic outlook, and what was disappointing was that 40% were pessimistic and 40% were neutral. 15% were optimistic, and you can do the math because we're all accountants, but 80% were pessimistic or neutral.
Right.
That's concerning.
Very concerning.
That's very concerning. We're not getting political here, just giving you the results of the survey. Some of the economic risks that they focus on were inflation, the supply chain shortages and disruptions, regulation, cybersecurity, and labor shortages. I know none of these come as a surprise to you, but these were the biggest items that they had, and then there were some others. The top priorities for companies that they felt were talent. I think that you guys are feeling, I know we're feeling the talent crunch. The AICPA has put out there many times about it that there's a talent crunch right now. Growth concerns, financial performance, and supply chain again. And guess what the last bullet that I'm going to mention? Climate change. I'm surprised that they brought that up, but they mentioned climate change. Oh, it seems that every episode I do, that ESG or something with that comes up. And it's just, it's crazy. So
it's a new buzzword.
And that's the new buzzword. That's right. I walk down the streets just saying people, ESG, ESG. All right. So.
Okay. So PCAOB, some interesting things happening there. They put out a staff overview of their planned 2022 inspections. So basically, it's a list of all the things they're going to focus on in this coming year. Why is this important for everybody? Is because whatever the PCAOB does, the AICPA is soon to follow. So again, in peer review, as we both do peer reviews, this is a focus we're probably going to be looking at or be put out by the AICPA to start looking at. So some of the things they're looking at is fraud and other risks. They're looking at initial public offerings and mergers and acquisitions. Why is that important? Or why are they looking at that? Because of the SPAC practice.
Is it really a SPAC
issue?
Yes,
it's a SPAC issue because they're concerned about the valuations that are occurring on the mergers. So now they're putting a focus on looking at those at the merger that's occurring and how they're valuing that the target business. They're also looking at audit firms' execution, dealing with hirings and hiring challenges, as you mentioned before, with the shortages of staff. The PCAOB now realizes that firms are having a problem with staffing. And so they're now looking at how are you staffing your audits on the job. So they're going now looking at that. They're going into broker-dealers, any concerns they have there on fraud risk. Independence is another big issue with the PCAOB. A lot to do, again, I believe, with the SPACs because a lot of these companies, the targets maybe are not audited or have to be audited, and their concern are the audit firms doing too much with that target entity or consulting, again, big consulting. Going on. Firms are now, as consulting starts growing, they're concerned that audit firms are now doing too much consulting, and it might cause them to be not independent. The use of service providers. Confirmation.com, which is something that they're very concerned about, and are they part of the audit team or not? They're going into critical audit matters, which came out this year for the first time. They're looking at that, so their focus is there as well. And then some of the other big areas where they find a lot of deficiencies, revenue recognition. They're looking at allowance for loan losses, and also internal control of financial reporting, where some entities are now, because of the market caps, now have to have their audits of their internal controls. So those are the big things there. They offered 5 key reminders, which I want to just go into. Exercise professional skepticism in evaluating reasonable and management representations, estimates, and forecasts. So again, just because management gives it to you, they don't just want to look at that. Remain alert for circumstances that could impair auditor independence. So they're really concerned. Independence, again, they're looking at. Implications arising from the current economic environment. How is that impacting the audit? Evaluating decisions made in a supervisory role to the engagement team's member ability to perform assigned work. Again, looking at the risks of not having enough staff doing the audits. So that's what the PCAOB is looking at, and I'm sure the AICPA will follow with some information.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you said in there that it's actually scary. And I mean, you mentioned SPACs 2 sessions ago when we were at the convention. You talked a lot about SPACs. Go watch that episode if you're not familiar with it. The independence, I see them hitting on. I read an article on the future of audit by an interview with the PCAOB, and they said in there that I think it was like 90% of the registrants are audited, large registrants are audited by the Big Four.
Right.
So it's a big concern of theirs.
Absolutely.
So sticking in the area of PCAOB and SEC, again, as I say in all these episodes, this is not only about public companies, but nothing much came out in the FASB this time and the AICPA, so that's why we're hitting on those areas. The SEC unveiled that they have more than 50 projects in their agenda. Okay, so it's a lot of stuff that they're working on, especially considering the FASB only has 1 exposure draft sitting out there right now. 50 projects that they're working on. And guess what? It includes a landmark proposal on corporate disclosure on climate change risk. ESG, they're all going into this. This is a hot topic. If you're not on top of this or thinking about it or familiar with it, do yourself a favor and start looking into it. We're going to make a reference to it again later on. There's been an argument made that the SEC doesn't have authority to issue prescribed rules over this area, and the SEC feels that they do have the right, so keep watching what's going on with this. And of course, the PCAOB is monitoring the SEC rules to determine what the impact is going to be on attestation requirements. So it's a big area, and it's going to potentially affect us. Moving into a different area, this is a particular area that I don't think you or I have ever. I dealt with it as an intern. A few of our members, a lot of our members do, and one of the members, Jack Daly, that we lost recently, dealt with municipal accounting. The GASB proposal issued requiring the disclosure for certain governmental risk. So if you do work in the governmental aspect, either within the municipalities or if you're an auditor, you might want to look into this proposal. It requires disclosure for information that would provide financial statement users with an early warning that the state and local governments are susceptible to financial effects of certain risks. A very interesting aspect. I've never seen this. Going concern is 1 year from date of issuance. Yeah. This has a 3-year window that they're looking at.
It's crazy.
That's big.
How do you determine that?
3 years. I want the government to tell me what they think is going to happen in 3 years.
I don't know, cool. But I would like them to tell me. Okay, so the next area is the ISA 220 revised. So the ISA is International Standards on Auditing. That the 220 is their quality management of audit and financial statements. What they did on this, they revised the definition of an engagement team, which I think is important because even though this is international, it's going to trickle down to, because of the convergence with our standards, which we have new quality control management system coming out in 2025. So they define the engagement team as all partners and staff performing the audit and any other individuals who perform audit procedures on the engagement. It excludes external experts. So if you bring an external expert in to do the evaluation, that's not part of your audit team or the internal audits. But what they went on further to talk about was that when you're using service providers, they are considered part of the engagement team. For instance, Confirmation.com, we talked about with the PCAOB. They could be considered part of your engagement team, and now you have to put in your controls over that and document all that information. So I think this is a pretty interesting one coming down the pike.
That's very interesting about the Confirmation.com, and that's why I interpreted it too. I mean, they're Confirmation.com, and we're not promoting them or anything like that, but they're owned by Thomson Reuters now, I believe, and I wonder what their thought is.
I don't know.
I'm part of an audit team now. And of course, the outsourcing is a big issue, because I know we're looking into it and other firms are looking into it too. So, all right, those are our topics today. In closing, I'd like to remind you about some upcoming NJCPA events. Learn about how accountants create value via ESG during a 4-hour webinar on August 4th. I recommend you look into it because you hear me talking about it all the time. Watch that session, please, and learn more about it. And learn how to avoid deficiencies in your peer review at a September 20th webinar. Register for these events and more at njcpa.org/events. And be sure to join the NJCPA Accounting and Auditing Standards Interest Group. Sign up for free at njcpa.org/groups. Thank you for joining me today, Frank. I always enjoy presenting with you.
Glad to be here.
Talking with you. So we like to fight at these things. And watch for more episodes. And thank you very much for watching and listening.